called by the town board pursuant to section 60.12, parent 1, parent C of Wisconsin statutes will be held on Monday, February 22nd, 2021, beginning at 6:30 PM at the Richard Young Memorial Fire Station, North 54 West 26455 Lisbon Road, Pewaukee, Wisconsin 53072, for the following purposes. Discussion and necessary action regarding resolution authorizing the town board to issue general obligation refunding bonds. The entire board is here. We have a quorum. And we have John from Ellers to inform us how things have gone today. Well, actually for the,
I'll do that.
yeah, during the regular meeting,
Okay, talk about this.
if you would. Thank you.
Yep, I would just flip the switch.
Okay, great. Good evening, everybody. John Cameron with Ellers. The resolution that you have before you authorizes the town board to issue refunding bonds if and when the situation would arise. This would be a standing resolution. You have to you just need to adopt it once. And it gives not only this board, but future boards the ability or authority to issue refunding bonds if the opportunity would arise. So townships in Wisconsin have the ability to issue debt from 0 to 10 years with town board action. Any new money offering over 10 years in length, you need a referendum to be able to do so. And that's something that's specific just to towns. So in many cases across the state, towns have debt offerings with balloon payments or might need to do something or refinance debt that's outstanding longer than 10 years. One item that we talked about at your last time I was here was the possible refinancing of the 2016 state trust fund loan that is associated with the Leeds purchase. In order to do that refinancing and issue a general obligation refunding bond, you would need to adopt this resolution, giving the town board the authority to do so. So it has nothing to do with the bond set or the note sale from this morning.
Anybody have any questions? Any questions from anyone part of the Electric of Lisbon? All right. Is there a motion on the issuance or on regarding the resolution authorizing the town board to issue general obligation refunding bonds? Anybody?
Well, I'd make a motion, but I don't know what to say. Where is it?
You just make a motion authorizing the town board to issue general obligation refunding bonds. I believe that would suffice, right, John?
All right, I make a motion.
Press your mic on.
Oh.
Center button.
I make a motion to
What?
have the electorate
Authorize the town board.
authorize the town board to issue a refinancing bond, loan. Oh. Okay, I will now make a resolution authorizing the town board to issue general obligation refunding bonds.
Motion by Becky Poltecker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Linda. Any discussion from anyone? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimous. Item 2 is adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Moved by Mark Moonen, excuse me. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Doug Brom. No discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are out at 6:36. We started the meeting, I believe, at 6:32. All right, that'll take us to the regular town board meeting here at the Richard Young Fire Station at 6:36. Roll call, please.
Chairman Osterman,
Here.
Supervisor Plotecker,
Here.
Supervisor Brom,
Here.
Supervisor Moonen,
Here.
Supervisor Beal. Here. Administrator Nicholas. Looks like we've got Planner Rachel Holloway on Zoom. I believe that's it for town personnel.
Michelle Drager is also in attendance. Fire chief.
She is.
All right, we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item 3 is comments from citizens present. Do any citizens have any comments tonight? All right, item 4 is the meeting minutes. Discussion necessary action regarding approval of the February 8th, 2021 Town Board meeting minutes.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes as presented from last month.
All right, moved by Linda Beal to accept. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mark Moonen. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 5 is accounts payable, authorizing the payment of the bills in the amount of $118,650.87. Kathy?
So we have our large expenses this month were Compass Materials of America of $11,011.29. That's where we get our salt. Hamilton School District for our January mobile home parking fees of $3,977.60. Payne and Dolan for our culverts and the finishing of our resurfacing program for 2020 is $22,030. Reliant Fire Apparatus for drains, valves, computers fixing was $4,068.73. And then the Waukesha County Treasurer, which takes care of our police services, was $62,681.47.
Kathy, any questions or comments on the bills?
Yes, could you please tell me on page 4, Kathy? It's a $58.68. It says reimbursement late billing. What is that about?
Which one is it? On page
I'm
four?
Waukesha County Treasurer.
Oh, it's the county reimbursement of,
A late fee?
no, it's late billing. So the county planner bills us and they, for Sandy's time, and they billed us the last 2 quarters really late. So we just got them in. I needed them before audit, and so that's what we're paying, the last 2 quarters.
So we have to pay the lateness.
Well, it's not a late fee, it's just that they just sent the billing in. It's late for 2020.
It's outside their normal billing.
And the reason it's reimbursable is because we use those services on behalf of someone that I sent out an accounts receivable billing to them.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the report for bills dated 2/9/2021 through 2/18/2021. The amount of $118,650.87.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Becky. Any final discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 6, announcements and correspondence. We have the town board meeting on March 8th at 6:30 PM. The next one will be at the town hall. Plan commission meeting on March 11th at 6:30 here at the Richard Young Fire Station. And then we have a Parks Committee meeting on Monday, March 15th at 6:30 here at the fire station. And then there's the Sanitary Sewer District Number 1 meeting Wednesday, the 17th at 6:30 at the town hall. Does anyone else have any other announcements or correspondence to note? All right. Item 7, administrator report.
The election had a turnout of 545 out of 7,961 registered voters, which is only a 6.8% turnout. This was the first time we used Badger Books, and it's speaking with the chief inspectors, most voters were happy to use them. We will have monthly updates on the development of the Leeds site. I'll try to put that in my report on a monthly basis. Sanitary permit has been approved and received from the county. We've met with Village of Sussex and the Hamilton School District about easements for the water main going down Main Street through Richard Road and across the Hamilton property to attach the main to the main on their property. This will be phase one. Joe from Brian has sent over some possible building placements and is in talks with a vendor that is looking for about a 120 to 130,000 square foot building and another spec building that they would like to put up about the same size as Wyckoff. We also have a connection that would like to build a dance studio in the commercial area. I've been reaching out to a couple of commercial businesses for the non-industrial area as well. We've had 2 public records requests this month, one being Jeff Fillinger. I mentioned that at the last meeting. That request has been completed. And then we received one from the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty concerning the grant we received from CTCL. And that has been completed as well. DOT has announced a 2026 Highway 164 project. In the review of the project, they'll be evaluating the Plainview Road intersection for controls that might be needed. Parks is gearing up for the Easter extravaganza on March 27th from 12:30 to 2 p.m. The website continues to be worked on, and we are reviewing the design currently with the expected go-live date, May 26th. The fire department had a total of 124 calls in January with 290,000 in fire loss. There were 51 medical calls and 39 interfacility transports. DPW in January, the department went out 11 times on winter events, picked up Christmas trees, helped with getting water to the ice rink, performed maintenance on 4 of our fire department vehicles, and they received their new ceiling fans and garage doors. Both have been installed in the Good Hope Fire and DPW building. The treasurer has been working on papers for the audit, finalizing the 2020 reconciliation. Our Moody rating continues at AA3 after their review last week. And that's my report.
Any questions for Kathy?
I know it's probably too early, but I'm thrilled that they're gonna look into something for Plainview and 164. Do you know if it's gonna be lights or roundabout?
They haven't said yet. They're first just doing the investigation on what kind of controls,
I think.
if they're needed,
really
and
needed.
then they will go through a
Okay.
design period.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mm-mm.
Thank you, Kathy. All right, item 8, supervisor reports. Does anyone have anything to report?
No, our last sewer meeting, it was just a general meeting, nothing out of the ordinary, and we paid our bills.
Excellent. Anybody else?
The rest of the town board was copied on that email from Mr. Kurt Waltz from Merton. Just to summarize, he was very pleased with DPW and the snowplow truck number 4. If everyone's not aware, Village of Merton contracts with the town of Lisbon for plowing services, and Mr. Waltz he says that he's a former resident of Lisbon, now a Village of Merton resident, and he witnessed the plow truck driver take extra care and time to plow out the cul-de-sac, which greatly helps out him and his neighbors. So thanks to the DPW, it's been a long winter. Hopefully it starts to warm up. So thanks to the DPW, and I know a few of them are watching.
All right, thank you, Mark. Anybody else? All right. So we have item 9 and 10, but the real big ones tonight are under 11, new business. Is there anything as far as with unfinished business that would take a long time, you think, or pretty easy? All right, item 9, unfinished business. A, discussion necessary action on ordinance 2021-03 related to the rezoning of North 48 West 27368 Lindale Road, LSBT 0268.999 from 8010 agricultural density to R2 single family residential.
on the agenda today, you had passed the rezone on January 25th board meeting, but we did not have a ordinance for you to sign. So all this is actually putting it in, cleaning it up, putting it in form so you can get it over to the county.
All right, any questions? Someone wish to make a motion on ordinance 2021-03.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2021-03 related to the rezoning of N48W27368 Lindale Road, LSBT 0268.999, AD 10 agricultural density to R2 single family residential.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Doug. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item B, discussion and necessary action on ordinance 2021-04 related to rezoning on County Line Road, LSBT 0150.997 from A10 agricultural and C1 conservancy to R2 single family residential.
Again, this is the same process. The board had approved that on the 25th of January. This is just to do the administrative part and get it over.
Any questions? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2021-04 related to the rezoning of lands on County Line Road, LSBT 0150.997 from A10 agricultural to C1 conservancy and C1 conservancy to R2 single family residential.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Doug. Any final discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 10, Plan Commission recommendations. A, discussion necessary action on ordinance 2021-05 related to the request by Joe Bukovich for MLG PF Twin Pines LLC for approval of the rezoning on lands on Lake 5 Road, LSBT 0171.995 from A10 agricultural district to R1 suburban single family district, residential district, excuse me.
So would you have Rachel on you today to talk to you, if you have any questions about this? To review it shortly. Rachel will jump in, but we did have our Lisbon Merton JPC on February 1st, and then the Plan Commission did approve this rezone on February 11th. It's coming to the town board for approval.
Any questions from the board on this?
This is just the, for the rezoning. It doesn't go into the actual layout of the roads and
That's
all that.
correct.
That's
It's just
still
the
all
rezone.
coming later, okay?
Yes.
Any question? Any other questions? Is there a motion on this item?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2021-05 related to the request by Joe Bukovich for MLG PF.
Mark.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2021-05 related to the request by Joe Bukovich for MLG PF Twin Pines LLC for approval of the rezoning of lands on Lake 5 Road, LSBT 0171.995 from A10 agricultural district to R1 suburban single family residential district.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Doug. Any final discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item B, discussion necessary action on ordinance 2021-06 related to the repeal and recreation of various sections of Chapter 11 of the Lisbon zoning code related to conditional use permits due to the 2017 Wisconsin Act 67.
So the Plan Commission went through for a few months, and we did a public hearing on this. It was completed and approved by the Plan Commission on February 11th, 2021. It's in your packet for approval. If you have any questions, Rachel is here to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board? Nothing? Is there a motion on ordinance 2021-06? I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2021-06.
Second.
Second by Mark. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to item 11, new business. Do we want to take the resolution of bonds first or leave it as it sits? We'll move to item B, Court, because I think the item A is going to take a little time here. So item B is discussion necessary action regarding resolution 2021-04. A resolution authorizing issuance and sale of $3,390,000 of taxable general obligation promissory notes, series 2021A. So we have a 2021-04 already.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So the resolution that you would have had from Quarles and Brady would have been before the sale, so it would have had a lot of blanks in it in terms of the actual results. So on the day of sale, after we take the bids and inform Quarles of the results, they complete the resolution with the actual results and get that off to you this afternoon. So good evening once again, John Cameron with Ellers, or John from Ellers. And very pleased to let you know that the town had a very successful note sale this morning. So we took bids at 10:30. We did receive 6 bids, which is really great. The winning bidder is Piper Sandler out of Minneapolis, which is an underwriter that we see quite often on sales in and around the area. With a true interest cost of 1.521%, which is really a fantastic result. And as Kathy had indicated in her report, also very pleased to let you know, as part of the sale process, we did go through the rating with Moody's, and the town was affirmed at a AA3 rating. Kudos to town staff and Administrator Nicholas for leading the charge through that process, preparing the official statement, going through the rating process. Does take quite a lot of effort. So we really do appreciate town staff's help in getting everything together and getting it together in a timely manner. So really great thanks to town staff's efforts for really leading the rating call process. So job well done there. The difference between the high and the low bidder, and you can kind of page through that as you go, but the interest difference in terms of total spread was a little over 140,000. So again, really a great end result for the town and its TIF district on this process. With the winning bid, we were able to downsize the issue by 30,000. That's primarily because we received a lower than estimated underwriter's discount, which is the underwriter's fee for purchasing the debt. So that came in quite a bit lower than our pre-sale estimate, as did some of the other issuance expenses that were estimated last month in the pre-sale report. The interest expense over the life of the notes is also 25,000, just over $25,000 better than what we anticipated last month in the pre-sale report. So in total, we're about 55,000 better in terms of principal and interest than what we showed the town board last month when we presented the pre-sale report on this. So really, again, congratulations on a very successful sale. So,
All right.
happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Questions from the board?
Sounds great.
I'd like to just thank John and his staff for helping through this process.
Absolutely, our pleasure. So,
Any questions from the board? Well, that went smooth.
yeah,
Is there a motion regarding resolution 2021-04?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2021-04, a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of 3.390 million taxable general obligation promissory note, series 2021A.
And then that to 3,360,000.
Motion is amended to 3,360,000.
Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Linda. Any final discussion?
Do you think we should put in that motion who we give the bid to?
No.
No?
Nope.
Okay.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Great.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Kathy, and
Yeah.
everyone else in staff.
Yep, that's the only item I gotta take with me this evening, the bid form.
Thank you, John.
Thank you guys very much. Yep.
Joe, I understand this could cost us some fees, 51,000 to bring up those issues. Is that what it
Yes.
was? Like their costs, Eller's fees and so forth?
That should be it.
Yeah, okay,
Should be the total cost.
yeah.
All right, that'll go take us back to A then, a presentation by the city of Pewaukee for possible contract for fire protection services and discussion and necessary action regarding the same.
Evening, Karen. Members of the board. Let's see, talk to that.
That one, huh? All right.
Challenge you.
Yeah, it is. No, it's 2 buttons and I gotta work. It's gonna be a little difficult. Yeah, thank you. So thank you for having us here this evening. I know that you have searched far and wide, as we have over the years as a fire department and as a community, to look what's best for our community and what's best for our citizens. I know it's a challenge in these times. At 1.2% though, I kind of like those numbers. So that's almost like free money there, Chairman. So if you got any extra, ship it our way. But thank you for having us. We're going to give you, because some of you aren't familiar with all of us, we're going to give you the 10,000-foot view of Pewaukee Fire Department this evening. And then we're going to give you some of the baselines of which we feel would be the best way to operate as a joint department. Okay. And we look as, we have up here as a partnership, and that's what we believe it is, right? It's 2 communities joining together to serve the communities to the best of their ability. And in these times, it's critical, right? We're all faced with challenges, the financial challenges, the levy caps, staffing issues. We're all looking at the same thing. It doesn't matter which road you go down, right? It doesn't matter if you go left or right. We're all faced with those same challenges. I have the, what would you say, the fortunate to go around the state and look at fire departments. I'm a president of Wisconsin Mavis. I see fire departments across the state. Many of them are having the same discussions, right? Consolidation, shared services, contracting. We look at either way what you do or who you do it with, it's a partnership, okay? This evening I brought Chief Hoppy, who's the Assistant Chief, Dave Johnson, who's our Deputy Chief of Operations, and Chris Cook, he's our Division Chief of EMS. And each of them will take the opportunity to address you tonight. We're gonna try to keep this short because I know the chairs are hard, and I know that we all like to keep the meeting moving, okay? We also brought the mayor along, actually brought himself along because he enjoys coming along and following me down the street. So Mayor Steve Bierce is with us this evening too. All right. There we go. Currently Pewaukee, we have 2 stations. We have 27 full-time, 17 paid on call, and 7 full-time command staff. This has evolved over the past 25 years. We started this evolution as a career department approximately 25 years ago. So this is how we've done this over the years, right? This isn't, we just didn't sprinkle it on and all of a sudden it magically appeared. And we'll go in through, we've done this through a continuous strategic planning process. We engaged our community, we engaged our elected officials to help move us forward. So it's been a slow process. You go, well, magically it was 25 years. So I know the mayor has talked to the chairman and said, we were sitting here 25 years ago. Okay, we were a township, we've moved to the city status. You'll be a village soon. We move forward as we go, and we grow and we grow and we grow. Okay, but it takes time and it takes planning, and a lot of planning. Okay, we are currently on ISO 2. We're a fully accredited SIPSI agency. We're one of the only 8 in the state. It's fully accredited, and one of only 300 in the nation are fully accredited. What it tells you is that when we go through accreditation, and Chief Hoppy will address it, there's a bunch of core competencies we have to do. And it's not just a fire department, okay? It's our finance section, it's our HR section, it's our IT section, okay? All those players come together to meet us, to make us whole, okay? So it's a total team concept. We couldn't do it without even our DPW. We couldn't do it without our neighbors. We couldn't do it with anybody else. We have to do it together, okay? We've worked together historically with municipal contracted and shared services. We have a contract with the Village of Pewaukee. We started out as a shared services agreement. We matured through that, and we found that contracting was just as easy, okay? Has it been easy? No, it's had challenges. I'll be honest, it has challenges. Anytime you have partners, you have a challenge, right? Marriages have challenges. Everything else has a challenge. We work through it, okay? We've survived those 25 years or more than that as a shared service. We've contracted now with WSD. That WSD partnership, it's in its 10th year. That's a contracted services and works well, and we feel what the good and the distance has created for us, that sense of community. Our standards, we focus on core services. That's fire suppression, emergency medical at the ALS level, okay? Prevention, education, and enforcement, which is basically our code enforcement side, and emergency management. We've done a lot of emergency management in the last year, as well as everybody else has. We've learned that we've got new missions to deliver, okay? We continually see the scope of our experiences and our expectations expanding. Our service delivery is based on professional standards, okay? We use the National Fire Protection 1710, 1720 standards. We use the Department of Safety and Professional Services codes 314 and 330, and the International Building Code and Fire Code. You say, well, why do we do that? They're standards. Well, they're standards because we see risk assessment, right? We want to do risk benefit analysis. We have to stand by with something because we'll be challenged one day, and we have to stand in front of a court or our peers or our residents and say, this is the standard that we're held to, okay? It's a nationally recognized standard. I know some people say, well, you don't need it. Well, maybe you don't. But that one day when I have to stand in front of your board or my council or our court system, I have to say, here's what I used, right? So, Chief Hoppy? Here, you got to do 2 hands. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having us here tonight. My name is Mark Hoppy. I'm the Assistant Fire Chief. My area of responsibility for the department is the administration section. Take a few minutes to talk about what's all involved with that. There's a 4-pronged approach to our service delivery. We like to think that for us to be effective on the street and to deliver the services that the customer expects, we need everybody within our organization, from the newest hire to the most senior individual, to have a sense of this is truly a service industry. The culture is service, and everything we do is service driven. That's why they're hired and employed, is to serve the citizens, the travelers through the city, and the people that work within the community. Along with that is we want them to always deliver high quality service. So everything we do drives for improvement, to find areas where we need to improve our quality, whether it's the response time, whether it's the public education program. We want high quality programs delivered to the customers. To do that, we need employee engagement, again, on all levels of the organization, from the newest hire, again, to the most senior person. The employee needs to know that they have a voice in the organization, that need to help us improve, that they find new or better, different ways to do things. And again, all this ties together that it's for the customer experience. When someone calls 911, we're there to do the right job. Whether they get an accident on the road, it's fast and we meet their needs, professional, courteous. The whole time we want them to know we're there working for them. So that's a lead into how we get there. In 2012, now just over 8 years ago, the city of Pewaukee made a conscious decision to adopt a model known as accreditation. We got that from the Center of Public Safety Excellence. I want to give everybody just a 2-minute background on that. In 1986, the ICMA joined forces with the International Fire Chiefs Association. They developed a group known as the Center for Public Safety Excellence. We call it CPSE for short. They were made just to develop concepts and design processes for continuous improvement, specifically within the fire and EMS service. That's all they do. And to do that, they put out manuals and publications on how fire departments can develop these 4 documents, we call them. They're really policies and procedures, but they're documents that drive what we do day to day. So I'm going to take my section and talk about these 4 documents. The first one we had to do back in 2012 was develop a community-driven strategic plan. We take the stakeholders. I'm sorry, I'm just going to give you the highlight of all the documents first. So we developed a strategic plan. We developed what's called the standard of cover. It's an SOC for short. Within the SOC is the community-driven risk assessment. It looks at all risks. Everything that we do is in the risk assessment. The third document is the self-assessment manual. We look at everything we do, again, in the agency, and we write it on paper so that it's available for everybody to see, whether it's our governing bodies, the public, the fire department employees. It's all written down and they can understand why we're doing what we're doing. The last document is the policy and procedure manual. It's actually a manual. They're not standalone policies and procedures. They're clumped together for easy reference. So I'm going to break down those few documents for you. The strategic plan was the first one we developed, and we chunk them out in 5 years so we can get a roadmap, what's ahead of us for the next 5 years. Our current strategic plan was made in 2019. It's our second one. It has 10 goals laid out in it. Each of those goals has supporting strategies to help us attain the goals and make sure we're having continuous progress towards attaining the goals. These were all developed with community stakeholders, whether it's the elected officials at the board meetings, we meet with business owners, we meet with residents, and obviously staff from within the organization. They all have a say in what road we're going to go down and how we're going to attain these goals and get there, so that they all know what mission we're striving to accomplish. And within the strategic plan, it's very important that this includes our mission statement, our vision statement, and our value statement. At any time, anybody from the city council to the fire department employees can go there and see what's guiding us to do the right things all the time, the best that we can. Our standard of cover. Now, this is probably the most involved document today, the current one. It's our second edition of the standard of cover. It's about 100 pages, and it talks about everything within the city of Pewaukee community and how we approach it from the fire department angle. It describes the community. It reviews all the services we provide. We're an all hazard department, which means the fire, EMS, hazmat, rescue, community risk reduction, everything is housed in that, so we call it all hazards. And so this elaborates on everything that we do so that we're transparent to the community and the governing bodies. The elected officials, again, can take this manual, a standard of cover, and see everything that we do. A big chunk of it is actually reporting back on the 5 years of past performance. We need to know how we did in the past, whether it's going to a EMS call of low acuity, an EMS call of high acuity, or your fire alarm and or your structure fire. How many people can you get there? How quickly can you mitigate the problem? What kind of damage did it cause, or what kind of property did you save? It's all highlighted in this standard of cover. It's become a very resourceful document for the agency to understand where we can improve and how we've done things in the past. There's a lot of graphs and charts in it, and we could probably talk about it another time, but it's very useful for us to see how our service delivery is getting to the customers. The third document is the self-assessment manual. This document has 10 chapters. It talks about everything from the governance model to finance, to human resources, our external relationships, whether it's with MABUS, the county dispatch, our mutual aid partners. It spells it all out in there in a consistent format. The format is, first you have to describe what you're doing. They ask you a question, then you describe what you're doing. and then you appraise it and see how well you're doing it. And then if there needs improvement, you actually have a written plan on how you're going to address the improvement. Who's going to do it, what time frame you're going to do it within. And again, it's published every 5 years. So every 5 years, the agency, whether you're responsible for EMS or fire training, you're diving back into your program areas. You're evaluating them to see where there's improvements that are necessary. One of the last ones is our policy and procedure manual. I know a lot of fire departments have policies and procedures. This is probably nothing fancy or special, but we want to make sure we explain that ours are redone every 5 years, as with our cycle of accreditation, because so many things change with our governance in the state. There's different procedures we have to follow. Department of Labor or Department of Health Services, they all have programs that change and new responsibilities that are pushed down to the fire departments. We want to make sure we're addressing them and staying current. So we republish our policy manual regularly, and we do it in a different way where it's tied back to that self-assessment manual, the 10 chapters in the self-assessment manual that talk about everything we do in the whole agency. Our policy and guidelines mimic that and follow all the way through the 10 chapters. And whether it's HR and we're onboarding someone new, it's laid out in the policy and procedure manual, what testing they're going to go through, how promotions work. It's very clear to everyone within the agency on how they can do their job the best way that they can and what's expected of them. So I'll tie this all back together because this is where we started on the administration oversight of an agency that's growing and changing and trying to keep up with the community growth and or the asks of the public. We want to make sure that this model is embraced in our culture. So I can't probably say that enough, that everyone in the organization knows that since the fire department embraced this continuous improvement model, that they have a say and need to help us do that. And we kind of laid out a couple of bullet points that if we're so transparent with our agency that we publish all these documents, we believe it gives the public trust because they can see what we're doing and why we're doing it. So it raises our profile within the community that we're here to serve them, and then this is how we do it. We lay it out. It also just affirms our dedication to excellence. We want to do the best that we can. So again, we write it all down. It assists in our communication with elected officials, our leadership. They understand our philosophies. They actually vote on and approve our standard of cover or the strategic plan. So we know they have buy-in and a stake in it as well. This also builds a positive relationship with our staff. They have the city council backing that the strategic plan is right, whether it's hiring or apparatus or whatever projects we're doing. They know the city council is behind them on it. And the last point is our data. It is written, publicized, and if the public wanted to know, they could see how quickly, how well we're doing it. If there are any gaps in our response, that we know we're publicizing it and that we're going to try and improve on it and meet the needs. Thank you for your time. I'll turn it over to training and operations.
Thank you. So we heard a little bit about accreditation and how we get to what the community really wants to know. And the community wants to know when they dial 911, what kind of services, how quickly, what are the personnel trained like? And when we look at fire department operations, that spans from everything from an EMS call or a traffic accident up to a structure fire or a very high acuity call where lives are truly at stake. And our philosophy and the way we look at it is that our fire department operations has 4 major components for us to achieve the desired outcomes. And that's the right personnel, the right training, right programs and equipment, and effective administrative oversight. We heard a little bit about the administrative oversight with the accreditation from Chief Hoppy, and we're going to dive into a little bit more of the processes that we go for that. So what do we talk about when we say the right people on the scene? For us, it's really 2 major components. One is that the right number of people arriving within a specific time frame. So if we take, for example, a structure fire, it's probably one of the most common things that people relate to is how quickly is the fire department going to come? They're going to save our lives. They're going to protect our property. What does that look like? Well, NFPA 1710, like the chief talked about the standards, says that an effective response force for a single family home, a house that typically that one family lives in, about 2,000 square feet with no basement, is 16 to 17 people, okay, within a given time frame, depending on population density. So that's a right number of people. That changes depending on what the emergency is. A lower acuity or a non-emergent EMS call, maybe 1 or 2 people or 3 people or 4 people, depending on what it is. Whereas a traffic accident, maybe 5 or 6, depending on that. When we talk about the right personnel as far as training, we want to make sure our people are qualified and trained to take part of that incident to effectively mitigate that and reduce the risk. Okay, so some examples of that is our incident commanders. Our battalion chiefs that are on duty are trained to be battalion chiefs. They've gone through a rigorous training program and meet the qualifications and the national standards to do that. Another example is a certified driver operator. We trust these people to operate a $750,000 vehicle. We need to make sure that they're trained properly and they demonstrate those competencies. The other thing is getting the right number of people on the scene is the use of automatic aid, shared services. We utilize that very heavily in Pewaukee, all of the communities around there. The numbers of firefighters and trained firefighters to respond within time, especially in Waukesha County, is challenging at times. So we utilize automatic aid whenever possible to increase those numbers of the scene. So let's look at what this looks like. This is a hypothetical situation, okay? If we were operating out of 3 stations and we wanted to get to that number of 16 or 17, it might look something like this. You can see there's 3 different stations in there, different types of vehicles, different numbers of people. But that red circle in there is really critical for that. And then that is to continue to use automatic aid. We can't do it by ourselves. If we want that 16 or 17 number, as we have there with a shift commander, driver operators, EMS providers at different levels, if one station's out on a concurrent call or a call at the same time, we depend on that automatic aid to achieve that. So we talk about the right training. As a chief of operations, I oversee both the operations of the department, what we do on the emergency scenes, as well as training. Our training program, I'm very proud of what Pewaukee has done in the past. I'm proud to be part of it now as we continue to move it forward. We have monthly training that we schedule for our people to make sure that they are properly trained to serve the community and give good customer service. That training program has Firefighter 1 and Firefighter 2 training, your basic and more advanced level. Our fire officers receive specific training that allows them to develop and continually improve in their position. Our driver operators get separate training, and our EMS continuing education. Additionally, our chief officers receive executive level development. Whether it's through the National Fire Academy or other agencies, we make sure that they are continually improving their trains and stay current with the accepted practices. We also have a partnership with WCTC, which gives us pretty much unlimited use of their training grounds based on availability. It's nice to have a live training facility right within our community that we can rotate companies through while they're on duty and make sure that they're getting the training that they need. We also provide qualified emergency services instructors. We have instructors that are either state certified or nationally certified in order to make sure that that training is carried out safely and effectively. We also have partnerships with outside training agencies. A couple of them, Apex, which is located right here in Wisconsin. They do some specialized rescue. We use Illinois Fire Service Institute. We hosted them for a 40-hour class on incident safety officer this past year, and the National Fire Academy as well. We're committed to providing our personnel with competency-based training to provide the highest level of service to our community. And what does that mean? So there's standards that say a number of hours. We're not concerned about the hours as much as we are concerned about the competency of our people. If somebody meets the minimum standards and still can't do their job, we focus on that competency versus the number of hours. This is an example of what our training schedule looks like. I know it's hard to read on there, but just to highlight it a little bit for you, within the red section there, that's our fire topics. Blue is EMS, the purple is the is the driver operator. We also had some training for our officers that month, but this goes out the first of the month. We utilize an online platform to deliver it to our people as well. So we talked about the right programs. Pewaukee, we're very proud that we do an ongoing needs assessment for our equipment. We're looking at to make sure that our equipment is properly funded with fiscal responsibilities to make sure that we're protecting the taxpayers' money. We utilize shared services whenever it's possible. An example of that right now is with the city of Waukesha. We contract with them to be our special rescue team in our hazmat response. We do preventative maintenance programs for our equipment and vehicles. As we all know, the equipment and vehicles is very expensive. We have a very good developing preventative maintenance program to take care of that. A couple of programs that we're really proud of is our cancer prevention. All you have to do is pick up a paper or a publication and find out firefighters are dying of cancer younger and younger every year. We have a very aggressive cancer prevention program to keep our employees safe. Our employees are our greatest assets. And we want to make sure that they see all the way through to retirement and they're safe and cancer-free by the time they leave this job. We also provide NFPA physicals. They're specialized physicals that address some of the risks to firefighters. They're governed under that 1582 standard. We provide those to our employees as well. And then we also have a very active department safety program. We have a safety committee that reviews different policies and procedures. We recently just updated our on-scene decontamination as part of our cancer reduction initiative. They review accidents. It's made up of all people or all different levels within the organization. And it's a very effective tool to keep us safe and make sure our working conditions are safe as possible. So when we look at this cascading things here, right, when we talk about delivering the service to the community, there's many components that actually gets us out the door when someone calls 911. And we talked a little bit about this in the previous section by Chief Hoppy, but we have strategic planning. We're looking to the future. We're looking for growth and service enhancements that as our communities grow, as our demands for service increase, how are we going to address those needs of the community? We have professional development and succession planning. I call it from recruit to retirement. We're able to address different employees' needs as far as development, preparing them for that next place in the organization, all the way through their entire horizon of their career there. We have policy guidance, knowing what to do, when to do. Those policies are updated every 5 years to make sure that we're providing the best level of service to our community. Our service delivery and supervision. We have a 24-hour battalion chief. We have several administrative chiefs that provide supervision and make sure that our service development and our service delivery is what we say it is through some of those documents that Chief Hoppy talked about. And probably the most important thing I look at is our quality assurance and analytics. Whenever we have a significant event, we do a critique of some sort. We publish that to the entire department, but we also look at analytics. Analytics are anything from response times to transport times to the number of times of the day of the week that we're calling out. Those are looked at every day through a dashboard of our reporting software. So those are important things that then circle back around to our strategic planning and our service enhancements. So for example, if we saw there was a certain part of the community that our response times were going up or our requests for services that were going up, we would be able to address that pretty quickly by our analytics. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Cook.
Thank you, Chief Johnson. To each of you, thank you very much for allowing us to be here this evening. My name is Chris Cook. I'm a Division Chief of EMS. And I actually stand before you as a very proud representative of the Pewaukee Fire Department and the manager of the EMS Medical Service. And I wanted to take an opportunity to kind of share information with you in reference to our EMS program at the Pewaukee Fire Department. Some of you may or may not be familiar with the different levels of care throughout the organization. The Pewaukee Fire Department currently operates as a paramedic level provider, and we most recently transitioned over to allowing ALS level interfacility capabilities. Something that we just recently came on board with. But in 2020, we actually did have 2,500 and 92 calls for service, and 77% of those calls were actually EMS related. So that's a significant number towards our total call volume. The Pewaukee Fire Department does consist of a significant number of different EMS providers. We do provide paramedics, advanced EMTs, EMT basics, and there is actually one registered nurse, and I stand before you humbly. We actually do operate 3 ambulances that are actually compliant. There is a new Wisconsin Trans 309 that is actually through the Department of Transportation. They actually came out with new guidance and stipulations in reference to how ambulances are to operate, and we actually were able to upgrade our ambulance to that standard. One addition point to bring up in terms of EMS is that most recently, within the last few years, we actually implemented pre-hospital ultrasounds. And so for some of us, when we think about ultrasounds, you probably think about if a woman was actually pregnant and perhaps having a baby, you would actually go to the hospital and have an ultrasound. And that's not typically what we're talking about here in this environment. The 2 main reasons why we as the fire department or the paramedics would actually utilize the ultrasound is if we responded to a cardiac arrest. We can actually utilize the ultrasound to see if in fact the patient's heart is still beating. And with that information, it guides us as to how we would continue to take care of that patient. If we have one of our paramedics that provides that, we then have direct consultation with our EMS medical director and then have a conversation about how we would continue to deliver care to that patient. The second reason why we would consider using our ultrasound is if we had a significantly injured person in a traumatic accident, we can actually utilize that ultrasound to see if in fact the patient would actually have blood that would be discernible within their system. And that again can help drive certain care that is rendered to the patient both on scene through certain medications and also how that care would be delivered in the hospital. So again, those are the 2 primary reasons why we would use that. Another component of our fire department that was instituted, and this is directly related to our strategic plan that both Chief Hoppy and Chief Johnson talked about, was the implementation of a rescue task force. And that is, again, something you may be familiar with hearing about. But again, the rescue task force was implemented in a direct relationship to the increase in potential school violence, specifically the school type shooter. And the rescue task force members are actually trained to work in concert with their law enforcement partners to go into an environment that is considered to be relatively safe, to immediately try to mitigate injuries that would ultimately cause death. In the current circumstance that we're in, if you have a service that is not capable of providing that, it is possible that by the time the EMS services would get on scene, there could be multiple fatalities because they were not immediately addressed. So not only do we have the appropriate trauma equipment, but we also provide ballistic equipment and training for our members with that as well. To continue on, we also have a scalable response, much like other EMS services. We typically will actually have either one vehicle or 2 vehicles respond to the scene based on the severity of the call. And as both Chief Johnson alluded to and Chief Hoppy, we also have full-time battalion chiefs, and they will go on certain calls of certain distinctions, such as a cardiac arrest or a severe trauma, to provide some administrative oversight on the scene, kind of be that orchestrator to kind of make sure that the care is being delivered accurately and appropriately. And they can also go to different calls based on the request of the crews. So if a crew went on a call, they felt uncomfortable, or perhaps maybe the circumstances were a little fuzzy, they would actually call the battalion chief to come out on scene. And that person would work as a conduit to help manage the scene so our providers can take care of the patient. Our medical direction is actually provided through Waukesha Memorial Hospital. We're all familiar with that it is, and we also work with Dr. Mark Schultz, who is our medical director. Something that is also interesting that we're actually working on instituting is actually doing live streaming video while we're on the call. So we're actually utilizing a smartphone that is a HIPAA compliant device that actually allows us to do a face-to-face conversation with our medical director, who then can see what is currently going on in the scene to help us direct care. Again, so it's important to understand too that, as I had said, is HIPAA compliant, so that allows us to share information both ways through that video conferencing capability. The hospital, the patient's choice kind of dictates where we take patients. So again, we kind of transport pretty much anywhere. However, the caveat is if our EMS providers are on scene and there is a severity that is determined by our providers, we're going to go to the most appropriate hospital. And oftentimes it's the closest hospital to make sure that we can maintain their airway or in an event where perhaps maybe they need more for their life-saving skills, we would potentially go to the closest hospital. We also do quality assurance, and that was talked to by all three of the chiefs behind me. We actually do 100% run review. That is predominantly done by myself. And then any, excuse me, any significant call of nature would actually be pushed on to our medical director. And when we have our monthly ALS training, we actually talk about these calls in our training. The city of Pewaukee also works very closely, much like other EMS services, with our law enforcement partners. And that is a key component to understand that they are our partners. We recognize that specifically for a few things: cardiac arrests and overdoses, our law enforcement partners have the capability of starting CPR and initiating the AED response, as well as a suspected overdose. Our law enforcement partners can administer Narcan. And many of us are very familiar with Narcan as being a medication that can help reverse opioids. Heroin is a primary example of that. And so again, the person who applies the AED pads and pushes the button, or the person who gives that first dose of Narcan, is truly saving that life. And then we would work collaboratively when we get on scene to help facilitate getting those people to the appropriate facility. We also have clinical partnerships with WCTC, which again allows us to then have paramedic students actually come into our facility. They do ride time. We also have a relationship with Milwaukee Area Technical College as well, which is a fairly new relationship. The other thing that's not listed on the presentation in front of you is that we also have a mentoring program for our new paramedics. So when I got out of paramedic school, I actually, I took my first job. I was actually put on the street and I was expected to know everything and take care of everyone like I learned in school. Well, we recognize that that doesn't always set our providers up for success. So what we do is, as a new paramedic to our organization, you are actually assigned a mentor who then helps to work with you as you progress through your orientation to the department. And ultimately, it kind of culminates with meeting with our medical director and having that 2-hour conversation regarding different types of calls. And the medical director then essentially says, this provider is essentially capable and able to work by themselves and make critical decision-making more or less without their mentor. Something else that actually falls in line specifically with our strategic plan is, in 2018, I was very fortunate to work with an awesome group of law enforcement providers as well as some of our paramedics, and we actually did Stop the Bleed training. Again, some of you may or may not be familiar with Stop the Bleed, but that is actually a national push to stop the hemorrhaging and bleeding of people that would be potentially injured in an active shooter event, and in some cases, even a natural disaster. We were able to provide this education for nearly 400 educators at our Pewaukee School District. And that was done over a multitude of days. And then after that, we partnered with Positively Pewaukee, which is a wonderful organization. And through fundraising, we were actually able to put 330 Stop the Bleed kits in our school system. Keep in mind that the person who applies the first bandage saves the life. And in the Pewaukee School District, it's the educators, it's not the firefighters. So it was keenly important for us to do this education. And again, I was very blessed to be a part of it. We do offer community-based CPR education as well as Stop the Bleed education too. So if we would have an organization, I was really blessed to be able to do some education with our Kiwanis. They had us come in. But if organizations are interested in doing CPR training or Stop the Bleed education, that is certainly available upon request by identified people within our organization. A few other things as I try to conclude here with these last 2 bullet points. We're actually exploring a collaboration with an organization called WIS Hope. And WIS Hope is actually a grant-funded organization, actually quite successful. And what these folks do is that if we identify someone in our community that has had a drug overdose, we have a teaming agreement with these people that, again, is HIPAA compliant, that allows us to go out with a recovering addict and do a knock and talk and a face-to-face with these people to try to help facilitate them getting into a recovery program. So that was kind of going full steam until we ran into COVID. And then I became the COVID czar. So right now, as it stands, that is something that we're exploring and continuing operation, but that's face-to-face. We obviously recognize that with COVID right now, we can't do that. And the last thing before I turn it over to the chief is that we also have applied an application to the Coverdale National Stroke Program. That actually is in relationship to a Senator Coverdale who died in 2000 from a stroke. This is a CDC organization and grant funded that actually talks about best practice for stroke care. So it is a two-way data sharing capability that provides us with education as well as analytics backed about how we respond to stroke and how we take care of the community members that we serve. So I'm going to continue to move on here for time, and we'll give it back to Chief Beers.
Clicker. Backwards. All right, so I guess that's it in a nutshell for Pewaukee, and then you say why. So, and I guess that's the whole crux of the presentation there, Chairman, is why, right? So we want to see measurable staffing models, right? And I think the biggest thing that can come out of this partnership is that we'd have a measurable staffing model. Currently in Pewaukee, we do 5 and 5s. You know, our plan would be to do the same thing here. So you'd have that 24/7 coverage, 365, right? The larger the organization, the better ability we have to add that flexibility in between the stations and our accountability between the departments, right? Johnny's calls in sick at station 1. We call in overtime, we fill that station, right? 2 people call sick over another location, we backfill, right? It gives us that flexibility and then enhanced ability to deliver that staffing model. It's community response to service calls. We also are going to see that decreased capital cost, right? We start to eliminate duplicated services. Like I said, in the beginning, we had 4 stations. We have eliminated 2 of those stations. And with that, a lot of capital costs went away, right? Instead of 5 ambulances, you go down to 3, right? You don't need all the redundant equipment that you have sitting around. If you don't have the people, you really don't need the toys, right? That's something that we've lived with, and that's something that accreditation has done for us. When we've done our analytics, we can show that cost savings through that type of survey, okay? And you say, well, what do the employees get, right? Career opportunities for the full-time, the part-time, and the paid on call. The larger the organization, the more promotional opportunities there are. There's more chances for schooling, more chances to do those partnerships in other places. I think it's critical to understand that it's not only for us in the communities. Our members have a desired effect here to move forward, okay? We're going to have an enhanced retention opportunities with comparable wage and benefit packages. You can ask if any of the paid on call members, any of the full-time members in this county, and everybody will tell you, well, how much does Johnny make? Well, he makes 10 here, he makes 12 there. Where's Johnny going to go work, right? We're competing. We're in a competitive market right now, right? As the numbers of volunteer firefighters and paid on call start to diminish, and as long as career are tougher to get, folks, we just spent a long time trying to we're filled 5 spots, and it took us months to find those 5 spots, right? It's a very competitive marketplace, very competitive. West Bend just started their process today for anticipated openings in the next coming months. So why does that give us enhanced retention? People want to be part of a bigger organization. The younger firefighters want to be active. They want to go on calls. They want to practice their skill sets. They want to be involved in their community. They didn't come to sit in the station 24/7 and not do anything and not turn a wheel. They want to be involved. They want to be engaged, okay? And we have a very enriched employee services through our committed people and culture environment. The city of Pewaukee is engaged in this great mission of taking care of their people. We understand at the city that all our employees are very dedicated and very committed employees, and we want to take care of them through enhanced payroll services, through good IT, through good, whatever the case may be, we reach out to them. Our services, our people and culture environment is awesome. Great benefits. We do a lot of stuff for our employees to keep them there. We want to keep them in tune. And so the last one real quick, what else is out there? What are the opportunities and challenges? It's community risk reduction for both communities, not just Pewaukee, not just Lisbon, Village of Lisbon. I mean, we're going to see a community risk reduction for both communities because we can move, we can see, we do our analytics, and we can pick places that we're going to have problems or challenges with. We can move those resources where we need to have them. Increased promotional and career opportunities. Once again, expanded cooperations with other agencies. The more resources we have available to put out there, the more we can share, okay? We'll have modular service expansion. If you want to have the reindeer and puppet show, right? You say, hey, chief, what can we do and how can we do that, right? And we can say, hey, look, if we can do that, it's going to be X, right? You can plan for it 5 years down the road. We can give that price, right? And I don't want to talk about price, but look at when it's a contract, much like the sheriff's department, we say it's X, right? Well, if you want to expand it, it'll be Y, right? You can plan for those things, right? It's not that unexpected drop in the bucket, all of a sudden, oh my gosh, right? All right. We need to have a step process for the timelines for implementation, and that's something that would have to be determined down the road. How do you want us to move forward from here? I mean, if you choose to do this, great, right? We can't walk in tomorrow and say, hey, here we are, right? We have to have that step line, okay? We want to customize that contract for you to meet your community needs, right? You tell us what you want. We can tell you what we recommend, but more importantly, what do you want, right? When we go out and we say, well, what kind of credit card? You want the gold card? Well, you know, everybody wants the gold card, but the gold card comes with a lot of money, right? You want the green card? You want the debit card? Tell us what you want. We can make it happen for you, right? It's an all-in process. And I know a concern we've heard across the board is, what about me, right? What about the Lisbon firefighters that are currently sitting? It's all in, folks. We need everybody, right? Those career members that are here today, right? They're going to have that opportunity to move forward, right? It's up to them. It's all in. This is a partnership, right? We're not going to say, well, no, you know, all you people move to the side. Our guys are moving forward. No, no. This is all in, right? We need everyone. This becomes a large organization really quick, okay? And those people that move forward with us obviously would fall under the city of Pewaukee payroll status and health and benefits and all that other stuff, right? We're comparable and we're very competitive in that nature, right? Our full-time members are part of the collective bargaining agreement. They belong to have their own local. I mean, that's given, their wage rates are set there. Our chief's officers and our administrative staff have their own set wages, okay? We're currently undergoing a wage benefits survey to keep us competitive in that marketplace, okay? Organizational identity, look at folks, it's another thing that always twists people's shorts, right, a little bit. What are we gonna be called at the end? Hey, you wanna be the reindeer force, you can be the reindeer force. We wanna stay the Lisbon Fire Department, you stay the Lisbon Fire Department, right? That doesn't matter to us, right? What matters to us is delivering good service to good people. Right? That's all that matters. The name on the side of the truck doesn't matter, right? On any given day, you can go down Highway 16 and see 16 different departments going back and forth in this county, right? Responding to the needs, right? I mean, I'm not a guy that's going to go be painting gold leaf on everything and go, oh, that's got to change, right? There's organizational pride. Nobody wants to take away my organizational pride. I'm 100% for organizational pride in the history, right? I mean, when you talk about history too, you talk about Chief Grom because he's part of it. He must be old. So, but that's important, right? Organizational identity. One of the biggest challenges we're going to have, folks, and I'm going to be super honest with you, we have to have a rigorous recruiting and hiring process. I mean, our anticipated right off the bat is 9 additional full-time positions. That's going to take some work, right? Moving all these people over to another side of the fence, putting them on board as employees, onboarding, physicals, that process is time consuming. And we're not going to shortcut it, right? So we have to have that timeline, but it's going to be rigorous and it's going to be difficult. I'm not going to say, well, you know, we'll walk out tomorrow morning, put an ad in the paper and we'll have 150 applicants. Not happening, right? It is not going to happen. We could be the highest paid agency in the state of Wisconsin. We'd still have challenges. I was in Sun Prairie the other day, same thing happened. Oh, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna find these people? We just got all these spots and we don't know where to find them. West Bend, Green Bay. This is not unique to this end of the county. This is a statewide national challenge right now. So that is probably the biggest challenge that we have in front of us. All the rest of the stuff is, we can do it, right? We can do it as partners. We all move forward together. That one is a tough one. So that's really all I have. So now it's your turn, Chairman. Throw it at me. What do you got for me? I've never heard Doug be this quiet. Yes, ma'am.
I do. You say that you will take over the firefighters that we have here now.
Correct.
Okay, how does their seniority pass over?
The full-time or the paid on call?
Well, both, but
The
particularly the ones that have been here a long time.
Full-time.
Full-time. I'm
The
concerned with-
full-time employees, firefighters that would go into the collective bargaining agreement would be covered under the collective bargaining agreement. So we don't have a lateral transfer. Their seniority would be taken, they would just come in as a new employee.
So they lose their seniority.
As correct.
Okay.
That's dictated by your union contract.
That's the union contract. That's by the collective bargaining agreement. So we have members, many of our members have been there. Our most recent hires, so they would come in at that 20, we've got employees that are at 25-year mark, all the way down to some that are starting in April.
Now, you mentioned that you closed 2 of your fire stations. Now we have this beautiful fire station here. So you come in here and use this? And I don't understand the equipment and how is that going to be used and utilized for everything as far as what you're going to use of our equipment and our fire station?
So our analytics have been, we're going to go back and look at, we've just, in the last 2 weeks, we've come through and done an organizational analysis of apparatus to look to see what we would best use and best fit, right? So once we look at all of it again, and we say, yep, we're going to move forward with this plan, and that would be our next step, is to find those challenge areas, right? And say, okay, you have X number of trucks, right? If we can't use them, if we can use them, we'll buy them. If we can't use them, Lisbon can dispose of them as whatever way they see it, right? And then part of that contract, we would anticipate that the station would be still under the, obviously you maintain your station, right? You own it and you'll maintain it, right?
So is this just free then to use because we have the station?
We can either do it that way, or we can increase the price of the contract and then rent it back. I mean, those would all be discussion points in the next conversation of how you want that to work.
Okay, then I'll wait for something. Wait. Thank you.
I've got some questions.
Certainly, Chief.
So a couple things. One, you were talking about your standard of cover.
Correct.
And then every 5 years through your accreditation, you take and you get all this input from all these different people, citizens, firefighters, administration, all your records. So with that, if we were contracted to you, how does that work so that we have people on a committee or something that contribute to that? How do we get
Correct.
involved with that?
Correct. So the standard cover and strategic plan are 2 different things, right? Strategic plan would definitely be an involvement. The standard covered is going to be looking at, once we get the strategic plan done, we'd sit down with your taxpayers, your elected officials, and say, hey, here are our goals, because now you're shareholders, stakeholders in this organization, right? So we would have that conversation with, we're not going to say, hey, you, Doug,
So do you
have
do
to-
that with the Village of Pewaukee now?
We do. And we
Okay.
did it with the taxpayers. Actually, when we did our strategic plan, we had the Positively Pewaukee group come in. We had taxpayers or business owners come in. We had the school district come in. We had a bunch of different people that we had. We actually had a third party come in and help us do our strategic plan. They made the appointments. They did the interviews. We asked them what they wanted to see, and that's what developed our strategic plan. Our standard of cover is the same way. Once we do the analytics at it, and we say, one thing we're real big on is analytics and numbers and data gathering. Chief Hoppy likes that kind of stuff. He likes to look at computers all day.
I know.
And he can pull out, and we can do heat maps and say, hey, at this quadrant, right, this area gets 4 calls. This quadrant gets 27 calls. It takes 2 minutes here, 5 minutes there. We're going to look at best ways to service those areas. Because back in the old days, I included, a lot of times we'd go to a common council or a board and say, well, I as a chief feel, right? Look, the days of feeling are over, I mean, now it's all analytics. It's all hard numbers, because we have to prove we're spending your money wisely. And so everybody can't have the same as the next person, unfortunately, or we'd be putting stations on every corner. So we have to look at the best ways to analyze and utilize that information.
So I'm kind of gathering here that we need to still put together exactly what we want before you'll give us the color credit card that we need, right?
Basically, yes, right?
Okay, so, but you're going to have a recommendation of staffing and using both stations.
We can use, well, we need to do more, to be honest with you, we need to do more analytics, right?
The only reason I ask on that is, are we using 1710 or 1720? And does any of this hurt your accreditation or any of your ISO rating? And do we get a separate ISO rating?
Your ISO rating become part of ours.
So we go
And
to
our
a two.
accreditation, we're putting our accreditation on the line to make this happen.
That's what I was asking. Is it gonna change any of that? I mean,
It's not gonna change our accreditation because we're gonna make it happen. I mean, that's what we're willing, that's our dog in the race right now, right? Is that I feel now, right? And my staff feels that when we looked at it, we can deliver this package to maintain our ISO ratings and maintain our accreditation through this next period.
is
Or
your-
if it doesn't work, I'll be sitting next to you
well,
in the retirement
as soon as it
bed.
gets warm, we'll probably be golfing all the time.
Exactly.
By the way, you improved my golf game over the last few years, so I have a
Well,
lot of
I didn't do
confidence in
much.
you. You
So-
cut half my strokes out.
So I've got a couple questions. You don't mind? Are you done?
I have more, but you can go if you want.
So I have just a couple questions. So when you were coming today, I thought we'd have some meat and potatoes in this, that you'd give us a baseline contract, so we knew what your suggested change contract would look like for us, and then we could help make it the contract that would work for us.
We can generate that fairly quickly.
Okay,
I guess, I'll be honest with you, I don't do a lot of, the contract with the city of Pewaukee is a very set contract. This is new business for us, and so we can easily do that. I have in our mind the neighborhood we need to be in and what it would look like.
okay, and do you have a number that you're considering at the baseline?
I do.
And did you want to share that with our board?
I think that would be a closed session
Okay.
once we start talking money.
All right, and then I had a couple of things. When Chief Hoppy spoke, I just wondered, when you're talking about the approval of the accreditation standards, and that's kind of what I think Doug was getting on, does Lisbon also help in that process?
Yes,
And so Village of Pewaukee does that right now.
Yes.
With you. So the other thing, when you're looking at the administration portion, Chief Hoppy, what kind of number of administrative staff do you use, or do you use your full department to do that administrative work?
Touch on that briefly, just want to clarify 2 points. We have 40-hour chiefs, I can talk loud without that, 40-hour chiefs.
We're on Zoom though.
Pardon?
We're on Zoom
I'm
meetings.
sorry. All of our administrative chiefs and officers, whether it's battalion chiefs, even the lieutenants, everyone has a hand in their portion of the agency. So when we talk about administration, I guess it's overarching, but the lieutenants have responsibility to write to how they maintain apparatus, and that goes in the accreditation documents. The battalion chiefs that head up the fire community risk reduction programs and do public education and inspections on buildings, they write their area of the accreditation. So everybody and throughout the whole organization has a part of that. But I don't know, I'm not sure if that's your question about maintaining, gaining and holding on to accreditation is the question, or if it's the day-to-day administration
It was
operations.
mostly the day-to-day administrative operations.
Sure. I guess that is real clear to clarify. Obviously, the chief splits his time between the city hall and emergency management, and the fire chief, I'm there Monday through Friday. I oversee Chief Cook that's behind me and Chief Johnson. Then they oversee the battalion chiefs and the lieutenants. So it's a paramilitary organization with the org chart, and kind of everyone has a direct report. So I lean on the 2 individuals behind me regularly to help keep the mission moving forward. But they're really the ears to the troops behind me. They hear how the battalions are doing, how the lieutenants are running their crews or their stations. So it's kind of your standard fire department approach, if you will, when it comes to the day-to-day administration operations of running calls in the department. We do have an administrative assistant that's at station number 1, and she helps us with just the day-to-day business of the office, if you will.
Okay.
Wanted to clarify, Chief Brom had a question about the accreditation. It is very clear if you do look up or read up on SIPSI, if Pewaukee Fire Department attains new geography, districts, territory to provide service to, they start the 1.5-year clock where we have to prove our dedication to our response model in that new territory, that we can get the effective response force to those calls in the same way that we say in our documents that we can do it in our home territory, if you will. So in 1.5 years, a peer review team will come in and see how we merge policies, how we merge stations and personnel, and they'll re-review it and give it a stamp of approval if it meets the standards.
Okay. So when you're talking about the partnership and reporting, the analytics, you actually allow the, because you said Deputy Chief said that after each call, you do quality control, you take a look at how it happened, did your analytics and figured out how your response time and everything was. Is that something that you share with your partner?
And we actually, we publish that as part of our accreditation, our standard of cover. And then we can prepare whatever type of reports would be requested at that point.
Okay, and then just one more, Doug, before I get you. I just say, you talked about competency, and are you testing in that competency? And how are you dealing with turnover? Are you seeing turnover quite high, or are you able to manage to keep your staff in-house? Because if we're having problems and suddenly we merge together and you're having problems and we're not really going to be adding, are we actually adding to the problems, or are we helping the situation by coming together?
Sure, I'll take your first question on how we testing. We do what are called JPRs, or job performance requirements. It's drawn out of the NFPA standards. It says, professional qualifications for a firefighter or fire officer have to demonstrate these types of competencies. So built into our training program are these JPRs. And we do that whether it's a monthly, quarterly. Our recruits get them weekly when we do a recruit academy. So that's how we evaluate our staff. Backtracking a little bit, what you talked about, the analysis or our critiques from our major events, we also look at that. So if there's a particular area that we feel that we could improve in, the chief will come down and say, hey, could we focus on this a little bit? Or we identified this need within the community. So that's how we address those. As far as turnover, I would say our turnover is average, maybe a little bit below average. Pewaukee, as the chief alluded to, the city has adopted this people and culture. We have happy employees. Is it a utopian employment? I don't think that there's any such thing anymore. A challenge is with our millennials, right? That next generation, portability, them being able to move from community to community. That's a little bit of a challenge, but I would say pretty much our workforce is stable. We offer them good training, good benefits, competitive pay, an organization that hears them and that they are engaged with. I think those are some key takeaways that reduce some of that turnover. Does that answer what you're?
It does, thank you. All right.
I have a lot of questions, but most of this will be answered, I guess, after you really fully understand what you're going to give us pricing on and what everything is going to be. I mean, but I do have, is your union, are they for this? Are they kind of, are they been informed? Does it matter? I mean, I'm just
They've been
asking.
informed, and I can't speak on behalf of the union, but I think what you see, my general take on it is that as the organization grows, their opportunities grow, right? We only have X number of lieutenant spots. We only have X number. This gives them an opportunity to grow, right? You add X 9 new full-time positions, right? Your organization is exponentially growing for opportunity, right? And so I think they engage in that. They also engage in the point of, when you look at the labor side of it, saying, look at where the community, the county is growing, right? These challenges aren't going to go away, and they want to be forefront and be safe, right? They want to make sure that they're getting the right number of the people on the job, the 16 to 17, just like they have qualified incident commanders, right? They have people that have been certified as fire officers. They want to make sure that safety is a big thing for them. And when we can turn those numbers out, I don't think anybody's going to say, no, that's a bad idea.
Okay. And the only reason I'm asking is because they got to buy into this too.
Right.
And especially if we start sitting down and looking for some of what you said was, some of the buffet style things like, like right now we teach all of the sophomore classes at Hamilton CPR because we are an American Heart here too.
Right.
We have all them things and, we are at a critical care paramedic level and we have submitted and have home paramedics. Those programs are enticing and probably maybe in the future we'd want to do some of those things too, I would think. And then, would the union be buying in or would they be?
Well, I think that, and like I said, I can't speak on behalf of the union, but I'll tell you what, anytime we've brought new ideas to the floor, right, to enhance our customer service skills or be involved, and that's, I'm not the guy to stand up and I'll tell you, I'm the anti-guy of strategic planning initially, right? I thought strategic planning was just a bunch of smoke, right? And I didn't like doing the first one because no one likes to be told you're not doing the right stuff, right? As a chief, it hurts, right? You're thinking you're doing everything right and you're patting yourself on the back so hard your back is blue, right? And all of a sudden you realize your community's not getting what they want. And when we brought in a strategic plan, we had members of the organization, we had the labor there, we had the community there, we had the citizens there, we had the elected officials there and saying, Kev, you're way off base here. We want to have community paramedics. And everybody's like, yeah, we want to have community paramedics. What are you thinking? Why haven't you got them yet? Well, then everybody gets on the same ship and starts sailing and life is a lot easier, right?
Yeah, well, and it seems like you have that addiction program going and with stroke programs. I mean, they all buy into that. So I would assume that you're not going to have an issue with that. I'm just bringing it up.
No, and I think down that you know as well as I do, we don't know what the mission of the fire service is going to be in a year, 2 years, or 5 years. It's constantly changing. Community paramedic was something that no one heard of 10 years ago, right? Pandemic was not even a word I could spell, right? We had to take that on. So, we changed with the times and because we're not caught in the same trap. We're not caught in that rut. And so as a bigger community, we have more opportunity to do that.
So, can I ask another question? So you mentioned a couple times now the 9 additional full-time positions. Is that something that the city is looking to do without the growth of us? Or is that something that you were saying, if you were bringing us in?
If we're bringing
you'd
you
need
in,
9?
we would think
9
that 9
additional.
would be one of the magic numbers.
Okay, and
Right?
Michelle,
We just added 5 and that'll start in April.
So does that include our 7 or is that an additional 9?
That would bring the 7
Our
over
7.
okay,
right,
and 2
and-
extra.
and
Okay,
2.
that's where I
So
was
it'd be a
going. Thank
3-2
you.
split,
Thank you.
right?
I know, that's one of my questions I got down here.
Okay, so you said it wouldn't be anything to get a baseline contract together. So if I put a closed session on the 8th meeting, are you going to be able to have that
8th, I'm
baseline?
out of town. The following time,
The 20, I don't know, what, 22nd? 22nd? You'd have something ready for us?
we'd
That
have
we
a
can
pencil
start
together,
talking?
yep. I mean, it's a
Just wanted to
strike
put it
point.
out there.
I
I
mean,
don't know if the
we're
board
gonna have
wants
to
to go
strike
that
it as
way.
we go, right? I mean,
Yeah. Well,
How
we'd
is he
like to
gonna
get-
how is he gonna do that though if we're not telling him exactly what we think we want?
that's the difficulty of where we're at right now.
No, but he's never had an RFP or anything. I just don't know. I mean, how you guys have been talking, because I'm not on every conversation.
The last time we did this was with the sheriff's department. And it was much simpler, to be quite honest with you, because it was,
So much a car, so much a
just
shift.
so much a car, so much person, so much
Right.
shift, that's what it
What
was.
it was.
And I guess we need some guidance, because right now I have no, I mean, you and I
Well,
have had some.
would it be
private
easier for me to
discussions
sit
about
down
it,
with Chief Brom? Or, I mean, 2 of you, or, I mean, that would help me, right?
mhm.
I think we definitely need a baseline.
Well, we need more than even that. I mean, we need to,
Exactly, but I'm just, that's a minimum.
I guess what I anticipated was tonight was kind of hearing what you thought we needed.
Mhm.
I know you say gold card, platinum card, whatever card, but I mean, there's only certain, if you're gonna maintain accreditation, you can't give us the cash plus card.
Right.
We gotta be gold or better, I'm assuming.
The-
Because if we want to go minimum
Right, and I
staffing
think the
here-
biggest thing that we have to do is be able to pull more analytics down, right? I mean, we need the data driven. We started pulling your analytics down, but it's hard for us to separate because we have to take down what's really your calls, right? I mean, how many are actually just Lisbon calls, not auto aid, not interfacility, unless you want us to put an interfacility packet together. But if it's just Lisbon calls, we need to be able to separate that out and say, okay, you had, I don't know, Chief Brown, how many organic ALS, BLS fire calls just a town of Lisbon have?
Well, we can pull that really.
I'm just saying roughly.
Oh, right now you want, probably about 700, 800 is probably Lisbon calls.
Okay,
And just like everybody else, 20% of them are ALS.
okay. I mean, and those are, that's the data we need to, because we pull it down and addresses are hard for us.
By
to
the time you put
separate.
in the intercepts and the interfacilities, you know, those are, that's
I mean,
when we
we-
get
we-
up to 1,200 a month.
Yeah, we have to take those out because we're talking just core service level, right? We're not in a position, unless you want us to be in a position to do interfacility,
Well, it kind of sounded like you're getting into it too.
but we're not at that point where I could say, here's the price, because I don't have a business plan. I don't have, I don't know what your contracts look like, everybody goes,
Pretty
well, I make
sketchy.
X number of dollars on my revenue side.
Right.
Well, that's like when I was cutting grass for my, the neighbors, and I use Dad's lawnmower all the time. Well, I got $5 every time, but you see how bad the lawnmower got beat up, right?
Just to be clarified too, for tonight's intents and purposes, Doug is our supervisor.
I know, but he has a
Our chief is over
background.
there. We have
Chief's
people
over there.
listening at home. I just want to be
Well,
clear.
I mean, if you
Doug
can
is
assign
now-
a task force or somebody that can have that dealing with us, because the only reason I point to Chief Brown is, one, he has a background in the fire service, and two, he
Right.
is an elected official.
Agreed. We have people on Zoom tonight, just so we know.
Right,
now,
I
our
mean-
interim Chief Drager, Doug has
I
been
mean-
appointed to the board, and he's acting as a supervisor for these discussions here tonight. But he is, obviously, his experience is amazing.
I just look at his background, he is an elected official, so he can speak on behalf of the board.
Sure. Okay, Mark?
Yeah, no, I really think we need to get a focus. I think that at the point we're at right now, we're house shopping, but we don't know what house we want to buy. We don't know
Right.
whether we need 4 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms. We don't know whether we want to spend $1 million or 250,000. So I don't think it's fair to sit here and talk what ifs on numbers. I think we just need to understand what services we can and can't draw from the city of Pewaukee. Some of the questions I had is, just organically through fire service, you are going to generate some type of revenue, whether it be through inspections, AMBO runs with billings. Who would?
You keep your the way we do it at the Village of Pewaukee, you keep all your revenues.
Would there be a la carte charge to the town of Lisbon residents for Waukesha SST, since you guys are contracted with them?
I initially planned to put that right in the contract.
From some of the other contracts that the town engages in, i.e. specifically the sheriff's office, there's post-contractual prices that are billed to the town, such as overtime charges. And we used to have transcription services. Do we foresee any post-contract à la carte, not à la carte, but post-contract prices that will be assessed?
There could, yes, but I don't know exactly what they would be.
So currently, right now, in the Village of Pewaukee, do you have post-contract charges that you're charging?
Only
Village
in case of a
Pewaukee?
declared emergency. And basically saying if it exceeds that 48-hour time period and we start to incur, example, train derails in the Village of Pewaukee, we're there for 40 days and 40 nights, those overtime costs come back to the community, usually incurred through insurance. Can I make a slight suggestion? I know the feeling of wandering in the desert. I would recommend, this is Kevin Pearson, the other guy speaking, you might want to engage in a strategic planning of your own that would help clarify you to find that house. You have a strong department in place that can manage, and you could put, you've got a great guy over here that knows how to do strategic planning. I think it would help you a lot as a community. Because if you look at it and you say, this is what we think we need, right? You could put that together and that would help lay into an RFP. And I'm just thinking, I'm a strong believer in what a strategic plan can do for your community. And if you're gonna jump into a 5-year deal or a 10-year deal, right? I think you wanna make sure, it's kind of like the old marriage thing, right? I wanna make sure I got the right date before I go get married. The strategic plan might be a strong way to move forward. You could either hire a consultant, you could do it yourselves, you could do it internally. That way you have the fire department experts, you have the chief back here that can help you, you have citizens that would be involved, you have your elected officials, and it might help clear your pathway.
Becky, any questions?
I don't have anything that hasn't already been answered right now.
Anyone else?
Yeah, at this time, I'll have more later on.
Okay. Doug, anything else?
No, I'd just like to, I don't know how we're gonna move forward, so that you can give us an answer. You don't have more answers.
Right. I guess that is the question, is how we move forward from here. I mean, if you're recommending that we go get a strategic plan,
That's months.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest, until November of last year, we were going Bark River.
Okay,
And then this became an option, and our good friends in Merton are waiting for an answer as if we need to. And we don't have 6 months.
okay. I just threw it out there.
Steve? Come on up. It's open mic night. Great.
Thanks. That's my brother, by the way, in case you didn't figure out that we both have the same last name.
That's your brother right there?
That is right. You ever see that movie Twins?
Yeah.
Think Arnie right here. All right, sorry. So I kind of promised him I wouldn't talk tonight, and as usual, that didn't happen. But it kind of seems like we're going in a circle right now. And if I just may, I don't know if it's going to irritate him or irritate you or irritate everybody, but if I might just interject that honestly, hopefully you figured out already that the 4 gentlemen who spoke before me really take this quite seriously. And you know, you'd be hard pressed to find 4 people who know more and care more about this particular subject. So if it were me, if I were running a community, I would tell the guy who is making this presentation that I believe he understands what a community needs to build a fire department. Not build one, but to form this fire department. And I would ask him to put a plan together and to give it to you to critique. That may irritate him. I don't know, is he doing,
thought
does
that's
he
what we were
look mad at me? I can't see him behind me.
Don't turn around.
Right. So, you know, 'cause you're gonna go in a circle. Do you want to do it? Do you want to do it? Quite honestly, that's the way it's gotta happen, from my point of view. Pewaukee does what we do. You guys do what you do, and it's 99% the exact same thing. You know, you want to put together the best, cheapest way to provide your community with the best service. That's what we've done here. And so, you know, sometimes nobody wants to make that first move, but if I were you, I would ask him to come put a plan together, give it to you.
Maybe he could do that for our next meeting and then go into closed session on the 22nd.
Put your mic.
Oh, sorry.
So just before you go, Linda, actually, I think that's what we all thought we were doing tonight. Was
Yeah.
what you're saying right now, we thought that's why we were here tonight.
Exactly.
Was to do that. So we have a miscommunication here going on, because I really thought we were coming in tonight, you were gonna tell us, we're gonna stock Richmond with this many people.
Yes.
We're not gonna use Good Hope, or we were gonna use Good Hope. This is what our recommendation is on this level. So I guess, we know, I mean, we know you're good. That's why you're here.
There was a misunderstanding. Sorry.
So,
Sorry.
Thanks, bro.
We don't question your ability. That's not an issue here. But what we have all talked, a baseline or something that you recommend, that we at least could look at it at our next meeting and then have a closed session, a closed session at the next meeting, and then have a closed session when you're back on the 22nd, and then we can review everything. So we're kind of, knowledgeable and we can absorb things ahead of the game. So when we meet with you on the 22nd.
So do you think that would that give you guys enough time between now and the 8th to come up with a plan?
2 weeks.
I guess whatever we need to get or whatever to know which the different cards are and what the recommendations are and,
Could we do it with the understanding that 2 weeks is a fairly short time period, but we would be in a really close ballpark? Nobody's gonna be signing any contracts at.
well, I think there's gonna be back and forth.
Well, sure.
Right.
I mean, I think what we need to know is first I guess this does go to your strategic planning talk, is what do you envision Lisbon's gonna need? So we are what we are right now. We haven't had massive growth, but we are growing. I mean, there's no doubt about it, we're growing. So right now, we need service though. So what does it look like right now? I mean, future planning, we can figure that out, but right now, what do you recommend we need? I mean, I'm gonna go right flat out. I mean, initial discussions, we had kind of talked, it sounded like Richmond was gonna be the station you guys would use. It's 6.75 miles from here to Town Line in Good Hope, essentially, from this station. It's 2.6 miles from Good Hope Station to that point. So, I mean, one of my questions I was gonna ask is what is going to be the goal for response times? And how does that play in only responding from, if it was only to be this station? Like I said, we haven't got a proposal, so I don't know. But just from our initial discussions, it was probably just gonna be this station. What would be the goal for those response times? And how does that play in with the two? Still working?
So once again, we're gonna go back to the national standards, right? 1710, 1720, 9-minute response time coming out the door. So we expect everybody to be in-house leaving here. So our turnout time is, we have a 90-second turnout time. So it's 90 seconds, that's our standard, that's what we do, 90 seconds out the door and on the road, okay? Initially, our plan was to have 7 up here. That included battalion chief 24/7, moving a battalion chief up here from down there, up here, because it's half the distance, right? So they can go back and forth. So it was gonna be 7, 3 and 3, 3 full-time, full 24/7, 3 paid on call is what we thought we could efficiently manage. And that's not running any facility. That's just baseline. That's a 4-3 combination coming out the door. So it's a full engine house and a full complement.
Interfacilities, right off the bat. Does everybody understand these are not guaranteed? There's no guarantee. We talk about this every year in budgeting. Are we even attempting to keep interfacilities in a contract at this point?
When you say, explain.
This is the interfacilities we provide from CMH, usually to Freighter and such
Mhm.
at this point.
Hmm.
We've been doing these, we don't have a contract. We don't,
Okay,
just so you know. I mean, just so everybody understands this, we don't have a contract. Is this something we know now or something we'd have to think about in the future? And this is no shot on CMH or Freighter, because I mean, right now as Lisbon, we are doing these and committed to them, but
Right.
if Pewaukee were the way we would go, I mean, we have talked with Mark River that those would continue potentially, as long as they could, but this is not a guaranteed revenue stream.
Okay, so would that be the Lisbon revenue stream or would that be Pewaukee?
Revenues stay here, but then they'd have to add on additional people to cover that.
Right, right.
And mind you, we're not a business for this. It's just, the purpose behind a lot of these facilities was a lot of training and keeping our paramedics and everyone
Exactly.
fresh, essentially. I
Well,
think it's worked, but
I think it's something we need to talk about. I don't think I'm ready to go nay or yay.
I mean, I guess the difference with bringing, if Pewaukee were to be the choice we would go, is if you look at everything they displayed tonight with their accreditation, some of the goals we had with the interfacilities are already met.
Mm-hmm.
So
and without, for us to go out and to put that into we need some kind of contract. I mean, we can't hire people if there's no contract there because
Right.
we're gonna, I'm gonna charge you back for that personnel and staffing.
I had seen it when you're talking before with one of your slides about that kind of stuff. It's knowing what, or we're talking your contracts are. Well, we don't have one.
I mean, without a contract, and then you know, it's the same deal. So if three people go on our interfacility, right, we have to make sure that there's three back there, right? So that's a whole different module of people moving forward. So there's nights that they may not turn a wheel, and, you know, then we have to expand our operational base. And without a contract, it's pretty tough to say, well, you know, hey, Lisbon, you're gonna make 400,000 next year. And then we have to look at, you know, what's the business plan? I mean, how many miles are you putting on the ambulances? How much equipment are you using? I mean, that's all stuff that's gotta be calculated.
Personnel, everything.
Right.
Right. I mean, there's a lot to this, but I mean, there is no contract with them at this point. So,
So, would you direct him to do one through the contract without their facility, and then we can further discuss
that's the
a
question.
breakdown?
Do we even want to consider if Pewaukee were going to be, I mean, we were talking about a proposal from them. Would we want to include the interfacilities?
But can it be a separate line item?
Yes.
It can be
It's right there.
with or without, and we can discuss it later. I mean, it would be a separate line item anyway. You can't, right? I mean,
Right, and we just have to leave it blank because I have no idea, right? Without a contract, or, you know, how do I get those numbers to say this is what it's gonna cost us? Because critical care paramedics, you know, that's X number of dollars.
Yep.
How many times you go out? What's the mileage going to? Are you just going from freighter to freighter? Are you going freighter to Madison, freighter to Green Bay?
we
I
went to
mean,
Madison a few times, so
right,
we
I
turned
mean,
that
that mileage
down.
stuff starts adding up pretty quick,
Yeah, we
and
don't
that's
do
hard
that.
on rigs,
Yeah, they are.
right? So
Hard on the
it would be
paramedics.
easiest for us to do one and just leave that line item blank, and then if you want it, we can do more research. I can't do it in 2 weeks, I'll be honest with you. I can give you a core services cost, right? To effectively meet the 1710, 1720 standards, or what we feel is most appropriate to that.
Well, it gives us a baseline. I think
Right,
that's
and-
what we're asking for.
Well, this is a big difference in baseline.
With this, what
Within
you're
a
trying.
facility, this is a big,
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, this is a big
Oh,
deal.
absolutely. I think we need to talk about that.
Do you have anything you want to throw on there, Mark?
Yeah, no, I guess my position I would be is at this point, we would suspend any talks of interfacility transport with the city of Pewaukee. Obviously, they're blooming some sort of program that was alluded to in the presentation. I think, obviously, the town of Lisbon Fire Department has, I'll call it at best, a handshake agreement to continue it. It could be gone tomorrow. We don't know that. So I guess we'll carry on as we were for that in our current budget. I don't think that, if you really get down to it, the town of Lisbon residents are really drawing interfacility transport. I think our town of Lisbon residents are drawing EMS services. If you really think about it, yes, they may indirectly benefit by the critical care paramedics, but I don't see that critical care paramedics are any different than a certified paramedic in the state. I guess from the research I've done, I don't necessarily think that what our residents are gonna ask for is wanting of that or needing of it. So I guess in the research I've done is I don't think at all directly on a day-to-day basis, the residents of Lisbon benefit from critical care, the interfacility transports. That's more of a business decision that the town engages in for revenue stream, but we talk about it every year at budgets. It's not there. It could not be there. It could be there for 10 more years. We don't know that, but I don't want to steal the chief's words, but I think we need to, as a board, decide, we need to give them what we want. We need somebody to respond to our house when it's burning down. We need somebody to respond to our heart attack when we call. We choose to engage in interfacility as a business practice, but our residents don't need that. They need somebody at the door when their house is burning. They need somebody there when somebody's having a heart attack. So I guess, I think as a board, we can sit here tonight and say what we need. I guess if we're going off the card standard, I think we can determine as a board what we need. We're the voice of our electorate here, so we should be the ones to tell them that. I guess my wishes would be, we get a price for EMS that's in line with what their skills are, and we get obviously they've looked at a 7-person model. What does that, what does that look like for price? So I'll just break it down pretty simple on the card scale.
I gotta say, I agree with Mark on this one. It's,
Me too.
I think with Bark River and with the Lisbon Fire Department, I think we see a benefit to our facilities and training and experience for our firefighters. You have 2,500 calls a year. I don't think you need any more. And if we add another 900 to that, I mean, that's 3,400 calls a year. I agree. I don't think there's a benefit to the town of Lisbon for continuing interfacilities if we contract with the city of Pewaukee. My personal opinion is we would not seek interfacility transports in a contract with Pewaukee. So.
Yep. And I guess I've thought past that, I did not know that Pewaukee had the capabilities of booming some sort of interfacility capabilities, but in my ideas, I thought that Lisbon, if we so choose to continue with interfacilities as a source of offsetting costs or, producing revenues, at that time, we can make a business decision to endeavor in maybe our own private ambulance that would just focus on that. I don't know if that's feasible. I think that's many stones down the road.
I think I agree with you, though, Mark. It doesn't benefit us so much at that point. I mean, we're not in a business. Everybody, I mean, you could argue everything's a business, but in reality, it's a service. And we do, right now as LFD, we do benefit from that as far as we don't pay as much as other departments. I mean, we just don't. If we go Bark River, we're still not going to be able to pay as much as other departments right off the bat. It's a good building stone, but it's not there right away, where these interfacilities have helped a revenue stream for a lot of these paramedics. I mean, they go on these things, they get paid when they go on them. And it helps. It helps having people here at night when things are going on and such. I mean, there's a lot to it that you're not necessarily, it's not an issue with the contract with Pewaukee, I guess. So Becky, how do you feel?
And no, I feel the same way. I mean, I agree with Mark that the inter-facility transfers don't help the residents of Lisbon. The only way they help them is that the revenue. And it offsets.
Yeah, with LFD and Bark River, I really think it would be a benefit to us, but yeah, okay. So it sounds like at this point, we don't need a separate line item for the
Copy.
interfacilities.
Copy.
I mean, I think we owe it to our neighbors here to give them, I mean, I'll speak in Linda's terms. I'm a new customer to this and I want to go buy a house. Obviously, we're gonna have a discussion about how much I can spend with you. So, take me to the house I'm looking for. So, I mean, we have to tell them what we want. My recommendation would be core services price of EMS and fire. Leave the discussion later if interfacilities does arise and that they have that service. Well, I mean, maybe that's something we can restart in that, but those would be my two. To go back on the fire station model, I don't know that 2 stations are what we need. Obviously, I think everybody would like to have a fire department in their back door, but everybody's got to pay for that then. I guess I would rely on subject matter experts to tell me they went from 4 to 2. I don't think they did it because they were decreasing in population or losing calls for service. So just because you grow doesn't mean you need to have more brick and mortar buildings on the ground. We need people to respond to calls. I think we can all agree that sometimes we don't have that. We don't have a guaranteed staffing model of service in the town. We would like to think we do, but the reality is we don't.
My purpose with the stations is that, so originally the town of Lisbon had Good Hope. Once we formed in 1982, we had Good Hope. Well, we built this station with the interpretation, we were always going to have two stations, one on this side and one on, in fact, we wanted to move it more to the northeast. So this station was put here with that two model station idea. So if we were to eliminate Good Hope, that moves, carry down to this side is good. But on the northeast side, without automatic aid or other things, it's not going to be so good. Now, we haven't always had people responding out of both stations. I think we all know that. We are getting better, but it's a concern I have.
Yeah, I would address that too, is we always don't have people here. I mean, we would like to think we have people here all the time. We don't, let's be real.
But that doesn't change 6.75 miles to 2.96.
I think it does. If you have somebody here in the saddle ready to start,
Miles.
yeah, like, if we have somebody here in the saddle ready to start the engine to roll out the door, you said 60 seconds, 90 seconds?
90 seconds.
90 seconds. I mean, what's the reality if we don't have people in our house to respond at 90 seconds?
But we're not talking about that, Mark.
they-
We're
they
talking
got-
about a contract where we're gonna have people where we want them. So if we're talking about that, if we're planning for the future, and this is the only station we're gonna keep people at, and this is 6.7 miles, this isn't the furthest part of town, mind you. This is just a Good Hope and Town Line now. This is down here, down Lisbon Road to Town Line and up, which I believe is the fastest way to get there. It's 6.75 miles at 90 seconds. You cannot meet 9 minutes. You can't do it unless you are blazing like hell. And that's assuming there's no train, which we all know, God love that train. You cannot make 9 minutes. to
We
that.
have, we actually have all the mapping from every intersection to every fire station, Sussex, Good Hope, this station, to every intersection in the town. We can give them that. If you want to meet 1710 or even 1720 standards, you're going to need both stations. There's just no way you're going to get to those.
And this is where I'm going, is
But-
how we're gonna look. Maybe not right away, but in the future, do we need both and what that's gonna look like? Because I don't wanna be the guy that says we only went with one station because it costs less.
Right. I understand.
So,
Move from the, more central location in Good Hope, and we built this station, and now suddenly most of our people are coming from this station. If Good Hope is our central station, wouldn't we be talking about, if we're gonna go with one, talking about our central location, not this station?
Yeah, that would be if you didn't look at a regional concept, that would be an isolation type of, yes. But, at the time, when Sussex has a station that's literally 3/4 of a mile from that one, and when we were looking at regional concepts in the future of growth, it made sense to move this station here and then anticipate getting another station to the northeast, not only for our benefit, but for Sussex's too. So, those were plans that were made a while ago. And I know when you had 4 stations and one of them got annexed by Waukesha, so you built a new one and moved it over a little bit. And and the one station, the Villages, at that point in time was not good. So you centralized your stations to 2. You lost some land and some things. I mean, there's always all this stuff that happens that changes things, and
So, but my question is, if we're gonna have City of Pewaukee do a contract with one station, is the one station, should it be Good Hope? Because it's centrally located,
there's
if we're
only-
trying to get to all the places?
there's only 4 sleeping quarters at Good Hope presently. And it doesn't have a lot of room. I mean, to remodel that and to enlarge that,
and this is where some of the difficulty comes, because we never anticipated keeping Good Hope. I mean, it was thought if this was gonna be LFD forever, it was one here and then another one. I mean, somewhere around where our town hall is, probably that kind of area. But, this is stuff, obviously, more for the future, but, I mean, right now, Mark, you're right, we don't necessarily have guaranteed coverage, but I'm not talking about now, I'm talking about moving forward into the future, and that's what we need to plan for. I mean, if Sussex were gonna get in on this contract, their station's there. I mean, that's
Right?
probably an answer. But I don't know that, I mean, you guys had discussions with them, and I don't know if those are gonna be revitalized at all. But, I mean, that's another question. But obviously, we're here to talk about us, but.
I guess in all respect to their time, can we just give them a focus to proceed on? And I think some of these in the weeds questions are more something we need to discuss inside a closed session meeting.
Well, I think he does have now the concept. We're not talking interfacilities. You're
think
just gonna
you want
give us
core
the base
services
price and
on a
you're going,
one-
yeah, with 7 guys.
Right.
I think we need, I mean, does everybody on the board agree with the direction that I stated?
Okay, I'm clear. I apologize for the misunderstanding. My bad.
Well, that's
That's the-
shifts. That's
the
over
shifts.
shifts in time.
That's a
Yeah.
staffing, yeah.
All right,
Is this, so are we, I mean, in time's sake, what kind of timeline do we need?
If they're going to give us something by the 8th, then we won't put it on the agenda until the 11th. That'll give the board enough time to digest what you've given them.
okay,
I think that, so then they actually have some questions, they're not seeing it for the first time, and they're after a few days right before the meeting.
okay.
Yeah, that'd
And
be
that they
nice.
can really go through and, I enjoyed all the administrative stuff, but we just need to know.
You want an executive summary of the service delivery model?
Our next meeting is on the 8th.
I know, but he's not gonna be here.
I know, but he will get us the figures.
I can put it out and give you an executive summary of that
Yeah.
so that you have it on the 8th and you can discuss it amongst
And
yourselves.
then we can go into closed session, with you, maybe, or whatever, on the 22nd, but I still should be in closed session on the 8th to discuss things. Don't you think?
I think it's up to, it's fine.
Okay. Mark?
I mean, I think if it's limited to just the Pewaukee contract, sure. I think if we're looking to decide in closed session what we're moving forward with, I think we need to hear the other presentation.
Yeah, I don't think that would be we wouldn't be ready by the 8th to do any of that. So we got the Bark River's gonna be giving another presentation, and then we're gonna obviously need time to digest everything too. I can't see a decision being made then, no.
No.
I'm not saying a decision, but I think we need, for productive analysis of both plans, we need to have two things to compare each other.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Okay, our staff is at your disposal. Whatever questions you need,
Thank you.
okay?
Okay.
Right there. All right, item C is discussion necessary action regarding possibly renaming of Town Hall and Town Hall Park.
Right.
And, or if it was or both.
Either, both.
Oh,
Actually, this led into a
Yeah.
unique discussion with
Yeah.
Kathy and I.
Yeah. So I contacted Chairman about, after speaking with our Parks Committee, about possibly renaming the town park to Memorial Park and having that dedication done on the 9/11 memorial. We're having that grouping. One, because it's called Town Park, and hopefully one day we won't be a town. And we have the possibility of an investor that's willing to put some money into our 9/11 memorial or memorial park. And we could maybe get the signage done by somebody like that. My thoughts on Memorial Park were, not to name it 9/11 Memorial, but just to keep it easy as a memorial park. We could do possibly memorials for anybody that wanted to plant a tree for a memorial for somebody. We could do if someone wanted to pay for park benches for the parks, or a plaything for their lost child, or it could just be Memorial Park, and it could go beyond just the 9/11. So that was just a thought, just to change the name, and I talked to Chairman, and he had talked to somebody recently about the same type of thing, so it was kind of funny.
The phone call actually was gonna be about the exact same thing, which was unique. So, and this can play, I mean, one of our longtime members, Jane Stadler, she's no longer on our planning commission. She was a town board member with us for a long time.
Years.
And obviously she's fallen ill. And my thought was possibly renaming that park or our town hall after her.
Mhm.
People have referred to her as a lot of different names, the Dom of Lisbon and the Mother Lisbon. I've heard a lot of different names, but she really stuck a lot of time and effort into this community. And I was kind of hoping to do something before and so she'd know.
She's been a source of information for years.
Mhm. She's been a good lady. So I guess that was my feeling on that. I mean, it wasn't to compete with obviously changing the name on the park in any way, shape or form. I mean, the town hall, I wanted to do something more on a park bench or a tree. I mean, she really
Mhm.
contributed a lot to Lisbon.
So we just wanted to kick it around, see what your thoughts were about changing the park name or keeping the park name the same or changing the town hall, actually naming the town hall. So, the building itself. So
Do you
some
think
thoughts?
talking to Jim, her sons would, if they would know that she would prefer having a town hall or a park?
I don't think she's gonna give you an answer on that, to be honest.
No, I mean, her family.
Well, I've talked to both of her sons, Bill
Okay.
and Jim. I mean, they would be honored with anything, to be quite honest. I think that would fall in our laps.
Yeah, okay.
Um,
I'm fine with either. I think,
So,
she deserves it.
so you wanna name it like Stadler Park? Is that what I'm getting here?
Well, that was the original thought, but obviously, literally in the same phone call.
Yeah.
Kathy had this idea with Memorial Park or, even the town hall.
But is the town hall gonna be your final town hall?
You move the
village
name
hall?
with it.
Yeah, you go the name with it.
Oh,
You could, a future board would have to decide that, but she spent most of her time in that town hall.
Mhm.
I know it's not a particular
just-
gem, but it's,
Yeah, if the town hall became a moved and you built a new village hall, you could keep the building as the Stadler Building. And it could be used for other town business,
Yeah.
rec department
a lot of
or,
different options.
you could
Just
keep it
something
or
like that.
move the name with it or do whatever, right?
right,
Right.
right.
What does the park committee think?
Didn't talk to them.
Well, I spoke with Marlene. They did bring it up about changing the name to, the park name to Memorial Park. They thought that the board didn't want to do it in the past. And that's why I thought bringing it to the board, I needed to get an idea of, why you didn't want to change it.
It's not this board, I don't think.
One of the reasons she thought was the problem was that because it's the town hall, they thought that it was going to be confusing if you named the park something else. But if you put the sign in the park area, when you're coming, to the right, when you're coming into the, you still have the town hall sign on the left side. So I don't think it would be a problem, but it's your call if it's something that you'd like us to explore and see if we can move forward on something like that. I know that Joe was talking about Jane, and if you'd prefer it to be the Stadler Park instead of Memorial Park. I just thought Memorial Park made sense because that's where our memorial is.
Yeah. that's
And
what the
we
sign
don't
said.
know if we're gonna need other memorial, in the next 30 years, if something else happens and your board might decide to put another memorial in that park or this also gave, there was another family that came to the park committee and they lost their daughter and they were looking for a possibility of the daughter was very heavy into basketball and they were looking at possibly putting a memorial basketball in their park that they're, whatever their subdivision is close to, there's a park close to that subdivision, a basketball court, because there isn't one, and it's a very, the area, a lot of the kids in that area play basketball for
Nice.
school, so. But they had lost their daughter and they thought this might be something they'd like to do.
That's
So
really
that's
good.
what kind of got me on the thought of the memorial park, so. But whichever way you want to go or keep it the same, it's just, I wanted to throw out the idea, we could bring it to the park committee and see if the park committee has a preference. I think putting something together for Jane is a really good idea for somebody that put in so much time for your town. And so, you know, at the very least, you know, naming the building, the Stadler Building wouldn't be a bad idea.
Everybody's
And it
thoughts?
could be the Jane Stadler Building,
Mhm.
so.
I'm open to it.
I saw this on there and I had a few, different ideas on it. I mean, I think we all know Jane's a great lady and we all love her to death and, she's meant a lot to the town. I definitely, I don't know that we need to take action on a specific park or building at this point.
Mhm.
I know in my time on the board, we have, dedicated a future something to people.
Okay.
It happens. And in that sense, I was thinking in the same terms, that's what we've done before, you know, why can't we do that in this sense? I mean, it could be a park, it could be a road, it could be, a building. I would have reservations about getting the town hall named something. I guess I'm a traditional in the sense of when I hear town more than I hear hall. And to me, town means the people and everybody as one. So I think just leaving it as the town speaks for itself. It's no disrespect to Jane or her family at all. I would rather it stay town hall or village hall, whatever we choose to name it in that sense. You know, should we have any buildings outside of that? I think that would maybe appropriate, but those would be my recommendations.
Linda?
Something to think about. I never thought of that, you know, like a road too. I'm in total agreement to name something. Stadler Road, Stadler Building, whatever. But I do like the idea of the memorial park there because I think that's so appropriate. I think that's a great idea. But to do, I don't know at this point, now that you've opened up some other options.
We are on a time frame with that.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's why I contributed I don't want to say like to be determined. I don't want to sound like it's something general, like, you know, obviously people get benches or they get squares in parks, but I think if we could have a general focus to it, I don't know if it's been talked about, and maybe Chairman, you can answer it, but is she open to this?
She doesn't have any idea about this,
You
unless
know?
she's watching tonight.
I don't doubt she probably is, but I mean, I know she's a very humble and reserved person and she doesn't do it for the fame for the town, so I would, I guess, ask for family or her blessing with a general idea.
I don't think we're gonna have an issue with that.
Yeah.
Personally, knowing them, gotten to know Bill a little bit more, having met, you know, known James and Jane over the years, obviously. I mean, Jane would never ask for this.
Right.
That's what makes it even, I think, even more appropriate, is her humbleness in a lot of this area. I mean, we named a ball field after a newspaper reporter / historian. I don't know. I guess you know, as far as naming a building, I mean, town hall, I mean, people are always gonna refer to it as town hall. You know, you name it like the Jane Stadler Center, or the Jane Stadler Conference Room, I mean, something in her name that way. And it's not that you make sure everyone refers it that way, or even that you refer it that at every meeting. I mean, we'd start a meeting, we wouldn't say at the Jane Stadler Town Hall, I'm saying every time, but I mean, it's just, that is where she spent a lot of her time.
Mhm.
It just happens that our park over there happens to have the 9/11 memorial there.
Yeah.
And, it's a fitting name, saying Memorial Park, and that's why I kind of went back towards the town hall end of it.
I mean,
I don't know.
is it out of the realm for Stadler Memorial Park? I mean, it's the same property, it's,
I'm not against it, I think it's open a discussion for options. Obviously, she's still with us.
yeah,
Makes it awkward.
it does, sorry.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, but,
This fire station is the Richard Young Fire Station, but a lot of people refer it to Richmond Firehouse because it's in the Richmond school area here and it's on the end of Richmond Road. I mean, look, everybody around here, go down to Richmond or go to Good Hope, but it's the Richard Young Memorial Fire Station. They don't use the name a lot.
Mhm.
I don't know. if
We
they
had
do it at
in
the town
Waukesha,
hall
that
either.
little conference room we had off of the town hall. That was dedicated to one of our former, it was dedicated to one of our former chairmen. And there was just a plaque up on the top of on the wall that said that it was a memorial to that person.
I think, I mean, if you think of parks versus buildings, if we just boil it down to just naming a building, I think a park is more symbolic of life. It's more symbolic of blooming. It's more symbolic of change than a brick and mortar structure that you can't really do that to.
And it doesn't get torn down in 70
Yeah,
years.
I mean, we're gonna keep Lisbon Park, whatever you want to call it, Town Hall Park. I mean, that's there. That's
It's there.
staying. Whether the building burns down or not, it's always gonna be that.
Oh, hey, we ain't gonna burn down.
What about
Stop.
our new road in the Leeds property? That's not been built.
we kind of identified one as Leeds Lane and the other one as Richard Road. I guess I don't really want to do a road personally.
Okay.
That's me.
That's all right.
No,
like
I
to
don't
do-
want to do a road either. I
Okay.
think
I really-
that's impersonal.
All right.
Was she involved in the 9/11 little area there in the park a lot?
I don't know if she was on the committee. I wasn't on that committee. So
I
don't
was
know.
on that committee, but I don't remember.
I was,
Yeah.
I kind of like, and I know the Memorial Park, I think it's a great idea, but if we name it the Stadler Park and tell everybody that's a memorial and that we could carry on if they want to plant a tree. So they would still know it's a memorial park, but we could call it the Stadler Park.
An option.
I would like to call it the Jane Stadler.
Well, yes,
Park.
yeah, the Jane Stadler Park.
Mhm.
I think that's nice. I mean,
What's your preference, Becky?
I would like to call Town Hall Park Jane Stadler Park. I think it's fitting. And I think that, I don't like dedicating, a building.
Mhm.
And I don't want to do a road. So I think the park's a good thing.
She was on the park committee at one point.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's why. I
She's
think-
been involved in almost everything.
Yeah,
So if the board so chooses, at the next meeting, I would do a resolution to change the name to Jane Stadler Park, if that's what you'd like to do. You can make the decision today, but I'll put it in a resolution, so.
Mhm.
what do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I would be in favor, I would hands down be in favor of a park,
Yeah,
the park over a building. I
yeah.
mean,
It's where people are gonna go and have fun, and I think that's what she would like.
Okay.
Should you make a motion, do you have to make a motion?
Nope,
mean,
it was
We'll
just.
make a
discuss-
motion on the resolution. If you could, and I can
Okay.
work with you.
Actually, it'll be 2021-05 resolution. That's what it'll be.
Good.
Becky, I don't know if you and I could help draft the resolution with Kathy. I mean, usually we'll put in there.
Yeah, all the stuff that Jane
All the
did.
stuff in there, and I'd like to present it to her before
Yes.
board meeting and tell her what's coming. If everyone would be okay with that.
I'm really in favor of it right away.
All right,
Okay.
good?
Yep.
I mean, if you need somebody to go with you, I'd be more than happy to go with you.
I don't know how many they'll let in.
Yeah.
To be
Oh,
honest.
she's not
I-
at home?
She's at home, but she's very tired.
Yes. Yeah, I know. And because I've called and every time I call,
I
she's
have
sleeping.
visited her.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I know.
Okay. All right, everybody good with that?
Yes. Go.
All right, we completed the whole agenda, correct? I didn't miss anything?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
All right.
Oh, sorry.
For,
As far as Walking Rock River stuff.
okay, it's,
It's not on
we
the
can't
agenda.
talk about that anymore because we're past the item agenda. You can talk about just to each of us individually, but right now we can't have any more discussion on it.
Only because I didn't have it on the
Sorry.
agenda. You could have spoke at citizen comments, but we can't, we
Yeah.
can't talk.
Okay. So Linda's made a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Becky. No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're out at 8:57.
Thank you, everyone.